Tom lived in a quiet rural town surrounded by vast fields of corn, wheat, and soybeans. His days began before dawn, tending to his modest farm where he grew enough to feed his family and sell at the local market. Though his yield was small and his income meager, Tom took pride in his work. Life wasn't easy. The soil was tough, water was scarce, and storms often destroyed months of effort overnight. But Tom never complained. Instead, he found joy in sharing what little he had with his neighbors. If someone fell ill or faced hardship, Tom would bring them baskets of fresh produce without expecting anything in return. "Helping others is the only way we survive," he'd say with a smile. "When we share, we all have more." His wife, Sarah, sometimes teased him for giving away too much. "How will we feed ourselves if you keep feeding everyone else?" she'd ask. But Tom just laughed. "We'll manage. There's always enough for those willing to share." One afternoon, dark clouds gathered on the horizon, signaling an approaching hurricane. Residents scrambled to secure their homes and livestock, knowing the storm could devastate everything they owned. As Tom worked tirelessly to protect his crops, he noticed headlights in the distance. A luxury car slowly making its way toward his farm. Curious, he walked out to investigate. What he found would change his life forever. The luxury car sputtered to a stop just outside Tom's driveway. Out stepped David, a sharply dressed man in his late 40s, clearly out of place in the rural setting. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, and his face etched with frustration as he leaned against the hood of his BMW. "Even my GPS failed me," David muttered under his breath, glancing at his phone, which now displayed a no-signal message. Tom approached cautiously, wiping dirt from his hands onto his overalls. "You lost?" he asked, his tone polite but curious. David looked up, startled by the sudden presence of this rugged farmer. Yeah, my car broke down, and I'm trying to get off these back roads before the storm hits." He gestured vaguely toward the darkening sky. Tom squinted at the horizon, where ominous clouds churned violently. "That hurricane's coming fast. You won't make it far on foot. Not with those dress shoes." He chuckled lightly, pointing to David's polished leather loafers. David sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Great, just great." Without hesitation, Tom extended an invitation. "Come inside. Can't leave you out here in this mess." David hesitated, unsure whether accepting help from a stranger was wise or even safe, but the growing roar of the wind made the decision for him. "Thanks," he said awkwardly, grabbing his briefcase and following Tom into the modest farmhouse. Inside, Sarah greeted them warmly despite their unexpected guest. She set an extra plate on the table, serving a hearty stew alongside freshly baked cornbread. "It's not much, but it'll keep you strong," Tom said as they sat down to eat. David took a tentative bite, then another. To his surprise, the food was delicious, simple yet flavorful, made with ingredients grown right outside the door. "This is incredible," David admitted between mouthfuls. "I haven't had a meal like this, ever." Tom grinned proudly. Nothing beats homegrown. No chemicals, no shortcuts, just hard work and patience. As the hours passed, the storm raged outside, battering the windows and howling through cracks in the walls. Inside, though, there was warmth. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the room. David watched as Tom moved around the house, securing shutters and checking on the animals in the barn. Despite the chaos outside, Tom remained calm and focused, embodying resilience that David couldn't help but admire. "You must love this life," David remarked later, sitting by the fire with a cup of coffee. Tom shrugged. "It ain't easy, but it's honest work. Keeps me grounded." David nodded thoughtfully. For years, he'd chased success in the corporate world, building a massive agricultural business that supplied supermarkets nationwide. Yet, sitting here in this humble home, surrounded by stories of struggle and triumph, he felt a pang of longing for something simpler, more meaningful. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind flooded fields and fallen trees. As David prepared to leave, he shook Tom's hand firmly. "I don't know how to thank you," David said sincerely. "You saved my life last night." Tom waved it off. "Just doing what anyone would have done. Take care of yourself, all right?" But deep down, both men knew their lives had changed forever. What began as a chance encounter during a hurricane was about to blossom into something neither could have predicted. In the weeks following the hurricane, David couldn't stop thinking about Tom and his family. The stark contrast between their lives haunted him, not just materially but emotionally. While David's world revolved around boardrooms, profit margins, and endless meetings, Tom's life was rooted in simplicity, hard work, and community. One evening, as David sat in his sleek office overlooking the city skyline, he opened a file on his desk labeled Sustainability Report. His company had been under pressure to adopt eco-friendly practices, but so far, most initiatives were superficial marketing gimmicks rather than meaningful change. What if we did it differently? David murmured to himself, recalling the lush fields and rich soil of Tom's farm. Determined to learn more, David decided to visit Tom again. This time, he drove a rental truck better suited for rural roads, carrying supplies as a gesture of gratitude. When he arrived, Tom greeted him with genuine warmth. "Didn't expect to see you again," Tom said with a chuckle, shaking David's hand. "I wanted to thank you properly," David replied, unloading boxes of tools and groceries from the truck, "and maybe learn a thing or two about farming." Over the next few days, Tom introduced David to the intricacies of sustainable agriculture: crop rotation, composting, water conservation, and natural pest control. David marveled at how much knowledge existed outside textbooks and corporate strategies. "You're feeding people without harming the earth," David observed one afternoon as they inspected a thriving patch of heirloom tomatoes. "Why isn't everyone doing this?" Tom shrugged. "It takes time and effort. Most folks want quick results these days." David nodded thoughtfully. He realized that while modern farming prioritized efficiency and scale, it often came at the expense of quality and sustainability. Tom's methods, though slower, preserved the land and ensured future generations could continue farming. By the end of his stay, David felt a renewed sense of purpose. For years, he'd chased wealth and recognition, but now he saw the value of connection. To the land, to others, and to himself. On his final day, David approached Tom with an idea. "I want to bring your way of farming to my company," he said earnestly. "Not just as a project, but as a movement. Together, we can create something that benefits everyone." Tom raised an eyebrow, skeptical but intrigued. "You mean farmers like me?" "Yes," David replied firmly. "Farmers like you. You've shown me what real resilience looks like. Let me help share that with the world." After some deliberation, Tom agreed. Though wary of big corporations, he trusted David's sincerity and believed in the potential for positive change. Thus began an unlikely partnership, one that would bridge two worlds and inspire countless others. Back in the city, David wasted no time turning his vision into reality. He called an emergency meeting with his executive team to propose a bold new initiative, Rooted Futures, a program designed to promote sustainable farming practices while supporting rural communities. At first, skepticism filled the room. "How will this impact our bottom line?" asked one executive. "Will consumers care about sustainability enough to pay more?" chimed in another. David listened patiently before responding. "This isn't just about profits, it's about responsibility. We've taken too much from the land and left farmers behind. It's time we gave back." He shared stories from his time on Tom's farm, the simplicity, the ingenuity, the respect for nature, and explained how adopting these methods could benefit everyone. Healthier soil meant better crops. Fair wages meant happier farmers. And happy farmers meant loyal partnerships. To prove his point, David invited Tom to speak at the company's annual summit. Dressed in his usual overalls, Tom stood nervously before a crowd of sharply dressed executives and shareholders. "I'm just a farmer," he began humbly. "But I know this: when you take care of the earth, it takes care of you. When you support your neighbors, they support you. And when you work together, miracles happen." His words resonated deeply. By the end of the presentation, even the most skeptical board members were nodding in agreement. With their approval, David launched Rooted Futures in partnership with Tom. The program focused on three key areas: education, teaching farmers eco-friendly techniques like crop rotation, composting, and water conservation; partnerships, ensuring local farmers received fair prices for their produce and long-term contracts with David's company; innovation, investing in research to develop tools and technologies that made sustainable farming easier and more accessible. Tom became the face of the initiative, traveling to farms across the country to teach others what he knew. His hands-on approach earned him respect among fellow farmers, many of whom had grown disillusioned with industrial agriculture. "You're showing us there's still hope," one farmer told him after a workshop, "that we can make a living without losing ourselves." Meanwhile, David worked tirelessly to ensure the program succeeded. He partnered with environmental organizations, lobbied for policy changes, and invested in marketing campaigns to educate consumers about the importance of sustainability. Within months, Rooted Futures gained traction. Supermarkets began labeling products as sustainably sourced, and customers responded enthusiastically. Sales soared not because of clever advertising, but because people genuinely wanted to support ethical farming. For Tom, seeing his methods adopted on such a large scale was both humbling and empowering. "Never thought my little farm could change the world," he joked during a phone call with Sarah. "It's not your farm changing the world," she replied. "It's you." As Rooted Futures grew, its impact rippled far beyond what either Tom or David had imagined. The initiative didn't just transform farming. It brought together two worlds that had long been divided: rural communities and urban centers. For farmers like Tom, the program provided stability they hadn't known in years. Fair wages allowed them to invest in their farms, send their kids to college, and even expand their operations. Tools and training made sustainable practices easier to adopt, reducing the physical toll of farming while improving yields. "It's like breathing fresh air again," one farmer said during a community meeting. "We're finally being heard and valued." In cities, consumers embraced the movement with enthusiasm. Grocery stores dedicated entire sections to sustainably sourced produce, proudly displaying signs that read "Grown with care by local farmers." Restaurants began featuring dishes made exclusively with ingredients from Rooted Futures farms, drawing praise from food critics and diners alike. David often visited these urban locations, watching as people filled their carts with products labeled with Tom's smiling face. It was surreal to see how far his idea had come, from a humble farmhouse kitchen to supermarket shelves nationwide. But the true magic happened when David organized events to connect farmers directly with consumers. At farmers' markets and harvest festivals, city dwellers met the people who grew their food. They asked questions, shared stories, and left with a deeper appreciation for the hard work behind every apple, carrot, and ear of corn. "These aren't just vegetables," one customer told Tom at a market. "They're pieces of your heart." Tom laughed, handing her a basket of tomatoes. "Well, don't let him go to waste then." Through it all, the bond between Tom and David only grew stronger. What started as gratitude evolved into mutual respect and admiration. David admired Tom's wisdom and resilience, while Tom appreciated David's determination to make a difference. "You've changed more than farming," Tom said one evening as they sat on the porch overlooking his fields. "You've reminded folks we're all connected, city and country, rich and poor. We need each other." David nodded thoughtfully. "And you've reminded me that success isn't about money or power. It's about leaving the world better than you found it." Their partnership inspired others to bridge divides as well. Corporations followed David's lead, launching similar initiatives to support underserved communities. Nonprofits collaborated with businesses to address environmental challenges. Even policymakers took notice, introducing legislation to incentivize sustainable agriculture. For Tom, the greatest reward wasn't fame or fortune. It was seeing pride return to his fellow farmers. Men and women who had once felt invisible were now celebrated as innovators and stewards of the land. "We're not just feeding people," Tom said during a speech at an awards ceremony honoring the program. "We're healing the earth and ourselves." The audience erupted into applause, but Tom simply smiled and tipped his hat. He knew the real heroes were the farmers working tirelessly in the fields, rain or shine. Years later, Tom stood on a stage in front of thousands of people at the grand opening of the Rooted Future Center, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to sustainable agriculture and rural development. The crowd erupted into applause as he accepted an award for his contributions to farming and community empowerment. Dressed in his signature overalls, Tom looked out at the sea of faces, farmers, business leaders, activists, and families, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. "I never set out to change the world," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I just wanted to grow good food and take care of my neighbors. But somehow, through your belief in me and in each other, we've created something extraordinary." Tom went on to thank David, calling him a friend who saw value where others saw none. He praised the farmers, researchers, and volunteers who worked tirelessly to keep the spirit of sustainability alive. And most importantly, he thanked the communities that had embraced the movement, proving that generosity begets more generosity. After the ceremony, Tom returned to his farm, where life continued much as it always had. His fields still flourished, his animals still grazed peacefully, and neighbors still gathered around his table. But now, visitors came from all over the country to experience the place where it all began. One evening, as Tom sat on his porch watching the sunset, David joined him. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" David asked, sipping coffee. "All the time," Tom replied. "But I try not to focus on the big picture too much. It's the little moments that matter. The smile of a child eating fresh strawberries, the farmer proud of his harvest, the city dweller learning where their food comes from. Those are the things that make this journey worthwhile." David nodded thoughtfully. "You've shown us that success isn't measured by money or fame. It's measured by the lives we touch." Tom smiled warmly. "Exactly. Success is sharing what you have, no matter how little it seems. Because when you give with love, it always comes back to you in ways you can't imagine." As the stars twinkled above, Tom reflected on his journey. From sheltering a stranger during a hurricane to inspiring a global movement, he had proven that even the simplest acts of kindness could create ripples of change. His methods weren't just about farming. They were stories of resilience, tradition, and compassion passed down through generations. And so, Tom kept farming not for recognition but because he believed in the power of connection. Every crop planted carried a piece of his heart, reminding everyone involved that unity starts small but grows infinitely. Because when we lift each other up, we rise higher than we ever thought possible. Tom and David's story is a powerful reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness, generosity, and collaboration can create ripples of positive change, touching lives far beyond what we might imagine. Whether it's opening your home to someone in need, sharing your knowledge with others, or working together across divides, every action matters. And now it's your turn to be part of this movement. Think about the people in your life who have inspired you with their bravery, compassion, or willingness to collaborate. Maybe it was a teacher who believed in you when you doubted yourself, a neighbor who shared resources during tough times, or a stranger whose selflessness restored your faith in humanity. These moments shape us. They remind us of our shared humanity and the incredible impact we can have on each other's lives.